Welcome back to Stamps Old World UK. Today we are exploring one of the most famous and important stamps ever issued in the history of mankind, the legendary 1840 Great Britain 1-penny black stamp. This tiny piece of paper changed the world forever and became the foundation of modern postal systems across the globe. Whether you are a stamp collector, a history enthusiast, or simply curious about rare treasures from the past, this story will take you back nearly 2 centuries to the birth of the world's first postage stamp. The year was 1840. Great Britain was the most powerful nation on earth. The Industrial Revolution was transforming society, railways were expanding rapidly, factories were producing goods on an unprecedented scale, and communication was becoming increasingly important. Before 1840, sending letters was expensive, complicated, and often inconvenient. In many cases, the person receiving the letter had to pay the postage fee. Costs varied depending on distance and the number of pages in the letter, making communication difficult for ordinary people. Everything changed thanks to a British schoolteacher and social reformer named Sir Rowland Hill. Hill believed that postal services should be affordable and accessible to everyone. He proposed a revolutionary idea, a prepaid postage system where the sender would pay a fixed fee regardless of distance within the country. To prove payment, a small adhesive label would be attached to the letter. This simple but brilliant concept would change global communication forever. On May 1, 1840, Great Britain officially introduced the world's first adhesive postage stamp. It became valid for postal use on May 6, 1840. This historic stamp was called the penny black because it cost 1 penny and was printed in black ink. The design featured a profile portrait of the young Queen Victoria, who was only 21 years old at the time. The elegant image was based on a medal engraved by William Wyon, one of Britain's most respected engravers. The penny black measured approximately 19 by 22 millimeters and was printed by Perkins, Bacon and Company in London. The stamp was produced using engraved steel plates, a sophisticated printing method that provided fine detail and helped prevent counterfeiting. Around the portrait were ornate decorative patterns and inscriptions that gave the stamp a dignified and secure appearance. One fascinating feature of the penny black is the lettering system found in the lower corners of every stamp. Each stamp contained 2 letters that identified its position on the printing sheet. The first letter represented the row, while the second letter represented the column. Since there were 20 rows and 12 columns, every stamp position on the sheet had a unique letter combination. Today we are focusing on one particularly famous position, the penny black bearing the letters AA. The AA stamp occupied the very first position on the sheet, located in the top left corner. This position makes the AA penny black especially desirable among collectors because it represents the starting point of the entire sheet. For many philatelists, owning an AA penny black is like owning page 1 of postal history. The printing plates used for the penny black were numbered and underwent repairs throughout production. Collectors carefully study plate numbers, corner letters, cancellations, margins, and condition to determine rarity and value. Although millions of penny blacks were printed, relatively few survive today in excellent condition. Many were used on letters, damaged, discarded, or lost over the course of nearly 2 centuries. An original penny black stamp can be identified by several important characteristics. The stamp should display the portrait of Queen Victoria in black, have check letters in the lower corners, and show no perforations because penny blacks were issued imperforate. Users had to cut the stamps from sheets using scissors. Collectors often examine the margins surrounding the stamp. Examples with 4 clear margins are particularly prized because they indicate careful cutting and preservation. Another important factor affecting value is the cancellation mark. Most penny blacks were cancelled using a distinctive red Maltese cross postmark. The red cancellation was intended to prevent reuse of the stamp. However, postal authorities later discovered that the red marks could sometimes be removed. As a result, they switched to black cancellation ink on later issues. Penny blacks displaying attractive and clear red Maltese cross cancellations are highly sought after by collectors worldwide. Now let's discuss the market value of the 1840 Great Britain 1-penny black AA stamp in today's collector market. The value depends greatly on condition, margins, cancellation quality, centering, plate number, and overall eye appeal. A heavily used AA penny black with faults or poor margins may sell for approximately $100 to $300. Examples with good margins and attractive appearance often sell in the range of $500 to $1,500. High-quality AA examples with 4 clear margins and desirable cancellations can achieve between $2,000 and $5,000 or even more. Exceptional specimens sold through major international auction houses may realize several $1,000s beyond these figures depending on rarity and demand at the time of sale. Collectors should remember that the penny black is not valuable simply because it is old. Its true significance comes from its status as the world's first adhesive postage stamp. It represents the beginning of a communication revolution that connected people across cities, countries, and continents. Every modern postage stamp issued anywhere in the world can trace its origins back to the penny black of 1840. The influence of the penny black spread rapidly across the globe. Countries observed Britain's success and soon adopted their own postage stamp systems. Within a few years, nations throughout Europe, the Americas, and beyond began issuing stamps inspired by the British model. What started as a small black stamp costing 1 penny became a worldwide standard that transformed communication forever. Today, the penny black remains one of the most recognizable and iconic stamps in philatelic history. Museums, libraries, and private collections proudly display examples of this remarkable issue. Stamp exhibitions often feature penny blacks as centerpieces because they symbolize the birth of organized modern postal services. Even people who know little about stamp collecting have often heard of the famous penny black. For collectors, the AA position holds a special charm. It marks the very first stamp position on the sheet and carries an additional layer of historical fascination. Many enthusiasts spend years searching for a beautiful AA example to add to their collections. When they finally acquire one, they are not merely purchasing a stamp, they are preserving a piece of world history. Imagine holding a genuine penny black in your hands. This small piece of paper may have traveled through Victorian Britain almost 186 years ago. It may have carried personal news, business transactions, family messages, or important documents. It survived changing governments, technological revolutions, world wars, and the passage of generations to reach the present day. As interest in classic stamps continues to grow, the penny black remains a cornerstone of serious collections. Its historical importance, elegant design, and enduring legacy ensure that it will always hold a special place in the hearts of collectors around the world. Whether you are a beginner or an advanced philatelist, studying the penny black provides a fascinating journey into the origins of global communication. Next up, the legendary 1840 Great Britain 1 penny black, featuring the Czech letters MH. This remarkable stamp is not only a treasured collectible but also a direct link to the birth of modern postal communication. Every penny black tells a story, and the MH example carries its own unique place within one of the most important stamp issues ever produced. The year was 1840, a time when Great Britain stood at the center of global commerce and innovation. Communication was becoming increasingly important as businesses expanded and families became more connected across long distances. Before the introduction of postage stamps, mailing a letter could be expensive and confusing. Postal rates often depended on distance and the number of pages, making correspondence difficult for ordinary people. Everything changed when Sir Rowland Hill introduced a revolutionary postal reform. His vision was simple yet powerful. The sender would pay a fixed postage fee in advance, and proof of payment would be shown by attaching a small adhesive label to the letter. This idea led to the creation of the world's first adhesive postage stamp, the famous 1 penny black. Issued in May 1840, the penny black featured a beautiful portrait of Queen Victoria. The design was elegant, secure, and instantly recognizable. Printed by Perkins, Bacon and Company, the stamp displayed intricate engraving details that made counterfeiting extremely difficult. Millions of penny blacks were produced, but each stamp carried unique identifying letters in its lower corners. These corner letters are one of the most fascinating aspects of penny black collecting. The first letter represents the row of the printing sheet, while the second letter represents the column. The letters MH indicate a specific position within the sheet. The letter M identifies the 13th row, and the letter H identifies the 8th column. This means the MH penny black occupied a precise location on the original sheet printed nearly 2 centuries ago. Collectors carefully study these letter combinations because they reveal where a stamp was positioned during production. Every penny black position has its own identity, and enthusiasts often seek specific letter combinations to complete studies of the original printing sheets. The MH position is a genuine piece of postal history and remains highly collectible among philatelists worldwide. The penny black was printed without perforations. Postal clerks and users had to cut the stamps from large sheets using scissors. Because of this, the size and quality of the margins surrounding the stamp play a major role in determining value today. A penny black with 4 clear margins is generally worth significantly more than an example where the design touches one or more edges. Another important feature is the cancellation mark. Most penny blacks were cancelled using a red Maltese cross. These distinctive markings prevented reuse of the stamp and are now an important part of its historical character. Collectors often pay premiums for stamps displaying attractive, clear, and well-centered Maltese cross cancellations. When discussing the modern market value of a 1 penny black MH stamp, condition is everything. A heavily used example with damaged margins or faults may be worth approximately $100 to $300. A sound example with reasonable margins and a clear cancellation often sells for $400 to $1,000. High-quality specimens with 4 margins and attractive appearance can achieve $1,500 to $4,000 or more. Exceptional examples offered through major philatelic auctions may bring even higher prices depending on demand and rarity. One reason collectors remain fascinated by the penny black is its historical significance. This small stamp represents the beginning of affordable communication for ordinary people. It transformed how information moved across Britain and eventually influenced postal systems around the world. Every stamp issued today owes something to the pioneering success of the penny black. The MH example serves as a reminder that even within a famous stamp issue, every position has its own story. Somewhere in Victorian Britain, nearly 2 centuries ago, a postal clerk handled this stamp. It may have carried family news, business correspondence, or personal messages across the country. Through careful preservation, it has survived to become a treasured collectible in the modern era. For stamp collectors, owning a penny black is often considered a milestone achievement. It is not simply an old stamp. It is the world's first postage stamp, a symbol of innovation, and a cornerstone of philatelic history. The MH position adds another layer of interest, connecting the collector directly to a specific location on an original 1840 printing sheet. Today, the penny black remains one of the most recognized stamps ever produced. Museums, auction houses, and private collectors continue to celebrate its importance. Whether valued at a few $100s or several thousand, every genuine penny black holds a place in the story of global communication. Next up, the Great Britain 1 penny red bearing the Czech letters BB. This remarkable stamp represents an important chapter in postal history and remains a favorite among collectors around the world. Although it followed the famous penny black, the penny red would go on to become one of the most widely used and recognizable stamps of the Victorian era. To understand the importance of the penny red, we must first travel back to the early 1840s. In 1840, Great Britain introduced the world's first adhesive postage stamp, the penny black. The revolutionary concept of prepaid postage transformed communication and quickly proved successful. However, postal authorities soon discovered a problem. The red Maltese cross cancellation used on the black stamp could sometimes be removed, allowing stamps to be reused illegally. To solve this issue, postal officials made an important change. In 1841, they introduced the 1 penny red. The new stamp retained the familiar portrait of Queen Victoria but was printed in a reddish-brown color. This allowed postal workers to apply a black cancellation mark that was much more difficult to remove. The change greatly improved postal security and helped protect government revenue. The 1 penny red featured the youthful portrait of Queen Victoria that had become familiar to the British public. The design was elegant, simple, and highly effective. Printed by Perkins, Bacon and Company, the stamp displayed fine engraving details and decorative engine-turn patterns that helped prevent counterfeiting. Over the years, billions of penny reds were printed, making it one of the longest-running stamp designs in history. One of the most interesting features of the penny red is the system of Czech letters located in the lower corners. These letters identified the exact position of each stamp on the printing sheet. The first letter represented the row, while the second letter represented the column. The stamp we are discussing today bears the letters BB. The BB position indicates that this particular stamp occupied the second row and second column of the original printing sheet. Every letter combination had a unique location, allowing postal authorities to identify counterfeit stamps and monitor printing quality. Today, these letters provide collectors with valuable information and add another layer of interest to each individual stamp. The BB penny red is a genuine piece of Victorian history. Imagine this stamp being attached to a letter during the reign of Queen Victoria. It may have carried business correspondence during Britain's industrial expansion, family news across counties, or personal messages between loved ones. Nearly 2 centuries later, surviving examples continue to connect collectors with the daily lives of people from the Victorian age. Condition plays a major role in determining the value of a 1-penny red BB stamp. Collectors carefully examine margins, centering, color quality, cancellation marks, and overall preservation. Early penny reds were issued without perforations, requiring users to cut them from sheets. Examples with 4 clear margins are generally more desirable and valuable than those cut close to the design. The cancellation mark is another important factor. Most penny reds were cancelled with black Maltese crosses or later numeral obliterators. A sharp and attractive cancellation can significantly enhance a stamp's appeal. Some collectors specialize in unusual postmarks, while others seek examples with clear and well-positioned cancellations. The market value of a 1-penny red BB stamp varies widely depending on condition and rarity. Common used examples with average margins may sell for approximately $20 to $100. Better examples with strong margins, attractive color, and clear cancellations often sell for $100 to $500. Exceptional specimens with 4 large margins, rare plate numbers, or outstanding condition can achieve $1,000 or more at specialized philatelic auctions. Collectors should remember that not all penny reds are equal. Certain plates, shades, cancellations, and varieties are considerably rarer than others. Expert collectors often spend years studying these differences, making the penny red one of the most fascinating areas of British philately. The success of the penny red helped establish affordable communication throughout Great Britain. Millions of letters traveled across the country every year, strengthening business, government, and personal relationships. The stamp became a familiar sight in homes, offices, railway stations, and post offices across the nation. Today, the 1-penny red remains one of the most collected classic stamps in the world. Its historical importance, beautiful Victorian design, and countless varieties continue to attract new generations of philatelists. Whether worth a few dollars or several thousand, every penny red represents an important piece of postal history. The BB example is especially interesting because it reminds us that every stamp had a precise location on the original printing sheet. These small letters transform an ordinary stamp into a traceable artifact from the earliest days of modern postal communication. For collectors, discovering and studying these details is part of the excitement and joy of stamp collecting. As we look at this remarkable 1-penny red BB stamp today, we are reminded that great history often comes in small packages. This tiny piece of paper helped connect people across Britain and contributed to a communication revolution that would eventually spread around the world.
Hello friends, welcome back to Stamps Old World UK. Today we are exploring one of the most recognizable and patriotic stamps ever issued by the United States Post Office. The 1954 3-cent Statue of Liberty stamp with the famous inscription, "In God We Trust," catalogued as Scott number 1035. This beautiful stamp is part of the famous Liberty series and remains a favorite among collectors of United States stamps. In this video, we will discuss the history of the stamp, its design, why it was issued, its importance in American postal history, how collectors identify it, and most importantly, its market value in today's stamp collecting world. The 1954 3-cent Statue of Liberty stamp was officially issued on June 24, 1954. In Albany, New York, it was printed by the Bureau of Engraving and Printing using the rotary press method and was produced in a deep violet color. The stamp features the iconic Statue of Liberty, one of the most famous symbols of freedom and democracy in the world. Above the statue appears the phrase, "In God We Trust," a phrase that would later become the official national motto of the United States in 1956. This stamp was one of the earliest United States definitive stamps to prominently display a religious and patriotic message. The issue was designed to represent the spiritual and democratic values that many Americans believed were central to the nation's identity during the 1950s. Understand the significance of this stamp. It is important to remember the historical period in which it was issued. The 1950s were years of great political tension during the Cold War. The United States was emphasizing its national identity, freedom, and democratic values. During this period, patriotic themes became increasingly common in government publications, speeches, and postage stamps. The Statue of Liberty was a perfect symbol for these ideals because it represented freedom, opportunity, and hope. The addition of the phrase "In God We Trust" reflected the growing emphasis on faith and national unity during that era. The Statue of Liberty itself has a fascinating history. Gifted by France to the United States in 1886, the statue stands on Liberty Island in New York Harbor and welcomes visitors arriving from around the world. For generations of immigrants, the statue represented the promise of a better life and new opportunities in America. By placing the Statue of Liberty on a postage stamp, the United States Post Office created a small but powerful ambassador that carried a message of freedom across the nation and around the globe. The 3-cent denomination was particularly important because it paid the standard first-class letter rate for many domestic and international mail services at the time. This meant that hundreds of millions of these stamps were printed and used. Because of the enormous production numbers, Scott 1035 is considered a common stamp today. However, its popularity remains strong because of its attractive design, historical significance, and connection to American culture and history. Collectors often admire the elegant engraving on Scott 1035. The deep violet color gives the stamp a distinctive appearance that stands out in collections. The detailed image of the Statue of Liberty torch, combined with the patriotic inscription, creates a classic design that represents mid-20th century American stamp artistry. Even though millions were produced, collectors still enjoy finding well-centered examples with fresh color and original gum. When examining Scott 1035, collectors pay close attention to condition. A stamp with perfect centering, bright color, and undisturbed original gum is usually worth more than an average example. Used copies with clear cancellations are common and generally inexpensive. Mint never-hinged examples are more desirable, especially when they have excellent centering and no flaws. Professional grading services occasionally certify outstanding examples, and these premium quality stamps can sell for significantly higher prices than ordinary copies. Now let us talk about the market value of Scott 1035 in today's collecting market. Most used examples are extremely common and generally sell for between 10 cents and 50 cents. Average mint examples usually sell for around 35 cents to $1. Nice mint never-hinged examples commonly sell in the range of $1 to $3 depending on condition. Exceptionally well-centered and professionally graded examples can bring much higher prices. A graded extremely fine example may sell for around $20 to $25, while a superb certified example with a very high grade can sometimes reach $75 or more in the specialized stamp market. However, these premium prices apply only to the finest quality examples and not to ordinary stamps found in most collections. One reason collectors should be careful when researching values is that online asking prices are often much higher than actual selling prices. Some sellers list common stamps for unrealistic amounts, but completed sales usually provide a more accurate picture of market value. For Scott 1035, the majority of examples remain affordable and accessible to collectors at every level. Another interesting aspect of Scott 1035 is its place within the Liberty series. The Liberty series replaced the earlier Presidential series and became one of the most important definitive stamp series in United States postal history. The series included famous Americans, historical landmarks, and symbols of freedom. Many collectors enjoy assembling the entire Liberty series because it offers a fascinating look at American history, culture, and national identity during the mid-20th century. For beginning collectors, Scott 1035 is an excellent stamp to own. It is inexpensive, historically significant, visually attractive, and easy to obtain. For advanced collectors, searching for perfectly centered, never-hinged, or professionally graded examples adds another level of challenge and excitement. This combination of accessibility and collecting potential has helped keep the stamp popular for more than 70 years. As we look back on the 1954 3-cent Statue of Liberty stamp, we can appreciate how a small piece of paper carries such a powerful story. It tells us about American history, the importance of freedom, the role of faith in public life during the 1950s, and the enduring symbolism of the Statue of Liberty. It reminds us that postage stamps are much more than tools for sending mail. They are miniature historical documents that preserve the values, events, and aspirations of the societies that create them. Next up, the 1932 3-cent George Washington stamp printed in deep violet with perforation 10 horizontally. Catalogued as Scott number 722. This classic stamp is one of the most popular Washington issues ever produced and remains a favorite among collectors of United States stamps. In this video, we will discover the history behind this stamp, why it was issued, its design, production details, collecting interest, and its market value in today's stamp market. The 1930 3-cent George Washington stamp was issued on October 12, 1932. During a significant period in United States postal history, the stamp was printed by the Bureau of Engraving and Printing using the rotary press method and featured perforation 10 horizontally. It was printed in a beautiful deep violet color that immediately distinguishes it from many other Washington issues. Approximately 35.9 million copies were produced, making it a widely available stamp for collectors today. This stamp was created after the United States increased the first class letter rate from 2 cents to 3 cents in 1932. Postal authorities needed a new 3-cent stamp to meet the higher postage rate. Rather than designing an entirely new stamp, the post office adapted the design from the popular Washington bicentennial issue. The denomination was changed to 3 cents. The commemorative date ribbons were removed, and the design was transformed into a regular definitive stamp for everyday postal use. The portrait of George Washington on this stamp is based on the famous Athenaeum portrait painted by Gilbert Stuart. This portrait is one of the best-known images of Washington and is also the basis for the portrait that appears on the United States $1 bill. The elegant engraving captures Washington's dignified appearance and helped make the stamp one of the most recognizable issues of the 1930s. Scott 722 is particularly interesting because it is a horizontal coil stamp. Coil stamps were produced for use in vending and affixing machines. Unlike ordinary sheet stamps, coil stamps were manufactured in long strips. The horizontal perforation variety had more limited demand because only certain vending machines required this format. As a result, Scott 722 remained in production for several years despite its relatively specialized use. Collectors often compare Scott 722 with Scott 721. Both stamps share the same design, color, and denomination, but they differ in the direction of their perforations. Scott 721 has perforation 10 vertically, while Scott 722 has perforation 10 horizontally. Identifying the perforation direction is essential because it determines the catalog number and can affect market value. One reason collectors enjoy this stamp is that it represents an important transitional period in United States postal history. The early 1930s saw major changes in postal rates and stamp production methods. Scott 722 stands as a reminder of how the postal system adapted to growing mail volume and new vending machine technology. It is a simple stamp, yet it tells a fascinating story about communication in America during the Great Depression era. Now let us discuss the market value of Scott number 722 in today's stamp market. Most used examples are very affordable and typically sell for around 50 cents to $2 depending on condition. Average mint examples generally sell between $2 and $5. Fine never-hinged examples often sell between $5 and $15. Exceptionally well-centered examples with superior gum and expert certification can command significantly higher prices, sometimes reaching $50 or more among specialized collectors. Dealer retail prices for standard mint examples are commonly listed around $2.75 to $3, while used copies are often offered for less than $1. With all stamp collecting, condition plays a major role in value. Collectors prefer stamps with bright color, sharp perforations, clean gum on mint examples, and attractive cancellations on used copies. Centering is especially important because perfectly centered examples are much scarcer than ordinary copies and can sell for several times the value of average stamps. Although Scott 722 is not considered a rare stamp, it remains an essential part of any serious United States collection. Its connection to George Washington, its attractive deep violet color, and its place in postal history make it a stamp that collectors continue to appreciate nearly a century after its release. Next up, the 1930 3-cent George Washington stamp. This beautiful purple stamp was released to celebrate the 200th anniversary of the birth of George Washington, the first president of the United States and one of the most important figures in American history. For stamp collectors, historians, and enthusiasts around the world, this stamp represents much more than a postage issue. It is a tribute to a man who helped shape a nation and whose legacy continues to inspire people nearly 3 centuries after his birth. The stamp was issued in 1932 as part of the nationwide celebration marking the bicentennial of George Washington's birth. Washington was born on February 22, 1732, in Virginia, and the United States government planned numerous events, ceremonies, monuments, and commemorative items to honor his memory. Among the most important commemorative items produced during the bicentennial year was this attractive 3-cent postage stamp, which quickly became one of the most widely used and collected stamps of its era. The design of the stamp features a detailed portrait of George Washington based on the famous Athenaeum portrait painted by Gilbert Stuart. This image is considered one of the most accurate and recognizable likenesses of Washington ever created. The portrait is surrounded by an elegant frame that reflects the engraving artistry of the early 20th century. Printed in a striking purple color, the stamp stands out from many other issues of the period and remains visually appealing to collectors today. The year 1932 was a difficult period in American history. The nation was experiencing the Great Depression, one of the most severe economic crises ever faced by the United States. Millions of Americans were struggling financially, yet the bicentennial celebration provided an opportunity for national unity and pride. The release of the George Washington commemorative stamp reminded citizens of the leadership, determination, and perseverance that Washington demonstrated during the founding of the nation. The 3-cent denomination was particularly important because it paid the standard first-class domestic letter rate at the time. As a result, millions of these stamps were printed and used on everyday mail throughout the country. Letters bearing this stamp traveled to cities, towns, farms, and businesses across America, carrying with them a reminder of the nation's first president and the bicentennial celebration. Collectors often study the various production methods used for the Washington bicentennial stamps. Different perforation varieties, sheet stamps, coil stamps, and booklet stamps were produced during this period. The perforation 10 horizontally variety is especially interesting because it was created for coil use in vending and affixing machines. These technical details add another layer of fascination for philatelists who enjoy identifying and classifying stamp varieties. One of the reasons this stamp remains popular today is its historical significance. George Washington is often referred to as the father of his country. He served as Commander-in-Chief of the Continental Army during the American Revolutionary War and later became the first President of the United States. His leadership helped establish many traditions and institutions that continue to influence American government today. The 1932 bicentennial stamp serves as a miniature monument to his achievements. Now let us discuss the market value of this stamp in today's collecting market. Because millions were printed, most examples remain affordable. Used copies generally sell for between 25 cents and $2 depending on condition and cancellation quality. Mint examples with original gum commonly sell for between $2 and $10. Mint never-hinged examples in excellent condition often sell for between $10 and $25. Professionally graded examples with exceptional centering and superior preservation can sell for $50, $100, or even more, depending on the grade assigned by Expert Certification Services. As with all stamps, condition plays a major role in determining value. Collectors look for bright color, sharp perforations, clean paper, and excellent centering. A stamp that appears fresh and attractive will usually command a higher price than an example showing faults, heavy cancellations, tears, creases, or damaged perforations. Many collectors choose to keep this stamp as part of a Washington bicentennial collection, while others include it in broader collections of United States commemorative issues. It is also popular among collectors interested in presidential history, American heritage, and classic engraved stamps. Its affordability makes it accessible to beginners, while its historical importance ensures that experienced collectors continue to appreciate it, nearly a century after its release. The 1930 3-cent George Washington bicentennial stamp remains an enduring symbol of American history. It commemorates a remarkable leader whose vision helped create a new nation and whose influence continues to be felt today.
Welcome to Stamps Old World UK, your ultimate destination for discovering the true value and hidden history behind rare, old, and collectible stamps from around the world. In today's video, we're diving deep into the legacy and market value of one of the most iconic postage stamps in American history, the 1-cent green Benjamin Franklin stamp. This timeless piece of philatelic art has intrigued collectors for over a century, not just for its beauty and design, but for the stories it carries and the surprising value it can hold in today's stamp market. So, if you've ever come across this green stamp with Benjamin Franklin's profile and wondered whether it's just a common old stamp or a hidden treasure worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars, you've come to the right place. In this video, we'll explore its origins, variations, collectible features, and how much it's worth today in dollars. Get ready for a detailed journey through the past and into the current stamp market, only here on Stamps Old World UK. The 1-cent green Benjamin Franklin stamp was originally introduced as part of a long-running series of definitive stamps known as the Washington Franklin issues, which were produced by the United States Post Office between 1908 and 1922. The design features a beautifully engraved portrait of Benjamin Franklin, one of the founding fathers of the United States, framed within an elegant oval and accompanied by rich scroll work on either side. Printed in a bold green color, this stamp was used for basic mailing services across the country during a time when the U.S. was rapidly expanding its postal network. But while millions of these stamps were printed and circulated, only a fraction of them survived in collectible condition. Over time, different printing methods, watermarks, paper types, and perforation styles were used, creating dozens of subtle but highly important variations. For collectors, these differences can mean the value of a stamp might be just a few cents, or skyrocket into the thousands of dollars. Let's talk about condition. When it comes to evaluating the value of the 1-cent green Franklin stamp in today's market, the condition of the stamp is one of the most important factors. A used version with cancellation marks and minor damage might only be worth between $1 and $5. However, a mint condition stamp, which has never been used and still retains its original gum on the back, could be valued anywhere from $25 to $150, depending on the issue and centering. Centering refers to how well the image of Franklin is placed within the borders. Perfectly centered stamps are far more desirable and rare. But here's where it gets even more fascinating. Some variations of this stamp, especially those printed on bluish paper, or those with inverted watermarks or rare coil perforations, have been sold at auctions for over $2,000 to $4,000. These rare errors and production anomalies are what drive the highest values, and they are actively sought after by elite collectors and investors alike. In today's modern collecting world, the market for rare and vintage stamps is stronger than ever. Auction houses, online marketplaces like eBay, Hipstamp, and Delcamp, and specialized philatelic dealers all report steady interest in classic U.S. stamps. The 1-cent green Franklin remains a popular entry point for beginner collectors while also presenting advanced collectors with exciting challenges in identifying the rare varieties. The value of this stamp is not just tied to its physical state, it is also tied to its historical context, its rarity, and its certification status. If you believe you own a valuable variety of the Franklin 1-cent, it is highly recommended to get it authenticated by trusted institutions such as the Philatelic Foundation, Professional Stamp Experts, PSE, or the American Philatelic Society. A certificate of authenticity from one of these organizations can dramatically increase the sale price and credibility of your stamp in the global collector market. Now, let's walk through some of the key variations that can greatly affect the value of your 1-cent Franklin stamp. For example, one of the rarest types is the 1910 issue printed on bluish paper, which was created as part of an experimental series. Only a limited number were printed, and even fewer remain in pristine condition today. These are known to fetch upwards of $3,000 to $5,000 depending on the grade. Another important distinction is the perforation type. Stamps from this series came in several different perforation gauges, and having a perforation gauge tool at home can help you identify if yours is a rare type. There are also coil stamps, which were made for stamp vending machines and appear in strips. Coil versions of the Franklin 1-cent are much scarcer, and some of them with intact pairs or line pairs are considered valuable collector's pieces. Another big factor that affects stamp value is the presence of printing errors. For instance, some stamps might show double impressions, color shifts, or even misaligned perforations, all of which can significantly increase their worth. There are even documented examples of inverted watermarks, which are rare and incredibly valuable. These rare errors often don't show up in casual collections and can take years to find, but when discovered, they often lead to major profit. In fact, expert collectors sometimes pay thousands just for the opportunity to bid on an authentic error version of this otherwise common-looking stamp. If you're holding on to a Franklin 1-cent green stamp today and wondering how to sell it, here are some useful tips. First, make sure you have high-quality scans of the front and back. Highlight any key features like color tone, watermark, perforation, and gum presence. Then, consider listing your stamp on well-known auction platforms or reach out to specialized stamp dealers. Even better, if you suspect it's a rare variation, invest in a certificate of authenticity first. This will pay off in the long run. At Stamps Old World UK, we always encourage our viewers to approach stamp collecting not just as a hobby, but as a long-term investment. Every stamp has a story, and when properly researched, those stories can turn into real market value. In 2025, the world of stamp collecting is still alive and thriving, thanks to digital platforms and online communities that make it easier than ever to connect with buyers and sellers. Whether you're collecting for passion, profit, or both, the Franklin 1-cent green stamp remains a classic and essential piece of philatelic history. It's more than just a stamp, it's a symbol of a bygone era, a tribute to American heritage, and for some collectors, a gateway to unlocking serious value. Keep in mind that stamp prices fluctuate based on demand, auction activity, and general economic conditions, so staying updated with catalogs like Scott's Specialized Catalog or subscribing to market newsletters is always a smart move. Next up, the 1-cent George Washington U.S. postage stamp. This small green stamp may look simple at first glance, but within its borders lies a deep and captivating story of American history, presidential legacy, and remarkable collectible value. If you've ever found this stamp in an old album, drawer, or inherited collection, you might be sitting on something more valuable than you realize. Whether you're a seasoned philatelist or just beginning your journey into the world of stamps, this video is packed with everything you need to know about the George Washington 1-cent stamp and its current market value in dollars today. So sit back and prepare for a full-length, in-depth guide brought to you by Stamps Old World UK. The 1-cent Washington stamp, like many other early American postage stamps, was not just a means of sending mail, it was a powerful national symbol. This particular design, featuring the first president of the United States, George Washington, was issued in various forms and styles throughout the early to mid-20th century. The image we focus on today most closely resembles the issues from the 1930s and 1940s, part of the presidential series, often referred to by collectors as the Prexies. This series was one of the most widely circulated and recognized stamp issues in American postal history. George Washington's dignified image appears in a classic engraved style, and the deep green color was chosen to distinguish the 1-cent denomination. This stamp saw use during a period of intense historical change, through the Great Depression, World War II, and the beginning of modern America, which adds a powerful historic value to this already iconic piece. In today's stamp collecting world, the market value of a stamp like the 1-cent Washington varies greatly depending on several key factors: condition, centering, perforation, cancellation marks, color variations, paper type, and potential printing errors. A very common, heavily used version of this stamp may only be worth a few cents, perhaps between 5 cents to $1 in a bulk collection. However, unused stamps with original gum, no hinges, and excellent centering can fetch up to $10 to $50 in today's market. And that's just the beginning. Some rare versions, particularly coil stamps, imperfect pairs, or stamps with printing errors like color shifts or miscuts, have sold for hundreds of dollars at auction. What appears to be a simple, common stamp might just be a hidden rarity when you examine the finer details. And that's exactly why identifying your specific version is critical before selling or appraising your stamp. So what makes certain Washington 1-cent stamps worth significantly more than others? The answer lies in the printing methods and production errors that occurred during different runs of the stamp. For example, some 1-cent Washington stamps were produced as part of special booklet or coil issues. These versions often lacked the same perforation on all 4 sides and were printed in smaller quantities. Additionally, stamps from private vending machine companies, such as those modified for the Scherzmack or mailometer machines, often carry unique perforations that make them far rarer and more desirable among collectors. If you own a 1-cent Washington stamp with unusual edge cuts, it's worth having it professionally evaluated, as it could be one of these scarce varieties. Another thing to look out for is the center alignment of the design, known in philately as centering. A well-centered stamp with equal spacing around all edges is far more desirable than one with the image skewed or cut off by the perforation. Stamps are graded based on centering and condition, with terms like fine, very fine, and superb, and these grades can directly impact the value. A superb mint, never hinged, perfectly centered 1-cent Washington stamp can command significantly higher prices than average quality examples. Additionally, the presence of full original gum on the back, which indicates the stamp has not been used, is a major selling point. Collectors often pay a premium for mint-condition stamps that have been carefully preserved for decades. Now let's talk about the current market for the George Washington 1-cent stamp. In 2025, vintage stamps continue to enjoy a strong and growing collector base. Online marketplaces like eBay, HipStamp, and Delcamp feature thousands of listings of the Washington 1-cent stamp, ranging from bulk sales of used examples to rare certified mint varieties. Common examples are easy to find and sell for a few dollars, but it's the rare coil types, plate number blocks, and certified errors that fetch the most attention and highest prices. Auctions at respected houses such as Heritage Auctions and Robert A. Siegel auction galleries regularly feature rare examples of the 1-cent Washington with realized prices ranging from $100 to over $1,000, depending on the condition and certification. If you believe you have a potentially valuable version of the Washington 1-cent stamp, the first step is to identify its exact type using a specialized stamp catalog like the Scott Specialized Catalog of United States Stamps. Look at the stamp's perforation measurements, paper texture, color tone, and watermark, if present. Once you've narrowed down its identification, consider getting it professionally certified by organizations such as PSE, Professional Stamp Experts, the Philatelic Foundation, or APS, American Philatelic Society. Certified stamps are far more appealing to serious buyers and are more likely to sell at premium prices. Proper scanning and clear photography also help in listing your stamps on digital platforms. Always show the front and back, and provide any relevant history or previous appraisal documentation. At Stamps Old World UK, we believe that every stamp tells a story. The 1-cent George Washington stamp is not just a piece of paper, it's a link to American heritage, a symbol of early 20th century design and politics, and for some collectors, an item of serious monetary value. Whether your stamp is worth a few dollars or a few hundred, it still represents a rich slice of history. Collecting stamps like the Washington 1-cent gives us a glimpse into the past and reminds us of how nations once communicated, celebrated their leaders, and expressed their values through these miniature works of art. So if you have this stamp in your collection, don't rush to discard it or sell it in a hurry. Take the time to evaluate its condition, research its issue, and consider its story. And if you're just starting out as a collector, let this stamp be the beginning of your journey into a hobby that blends art, history, and real-world value. Next up, the 1-cent George Washington green stamp from the mid-1800s. This stunning piece, with its bold green color and regal portrait of George Washington, is not just a collector's favorite, it's a cornerstone of early American philately. If you've ever come across this stamp in an old album or inherited collection, you may be holding more than just paper. You could be holding a valuable relic of the 19th century. Today, we will explore its origins, its incredible variations, and most importantly, its market value in today's dollars. Whether you're an experienced stamp collector or just curious about the worth of what you found in a drawer, this in-depth guide is for you, right here on Stamps Old World UK. The stamp in focus today is none other than the classic 1-cent George Washington stamp from the 1851 to 1861 issue, known to collectors worldwide as the imperfect green Washington. This stamp features a profile of America's first president in bold engraving, surrounded by laurel leaves and the classic inscription, U.S. postage, at the top and 1 cent at the bottom. Unlike later versions, this early issue is imperforate, meaning it had no perforations along the edges and had to be manually cut from a sheet with scissors or knives. This gives each surviving stamp a unique look depending on how it was cut. Issued originally in 1851, and reissued in slightly modified forms throughout the following decade, this stamp holds historical significance. It reflects a young nation building its communication system and celebrating its founding ideals through the power of printed mail. Now, let's move straight into what everyone wants to know, the value. The market price for the 1-cent George Washington green stamp varies dramatically depending on condition, margin size, paper type, color shade, and most importantly, authenticity. A typical used example with tight or uneven margins may only bring in between $20 to $75, especially if it has a heavy cancellation mark. But if you're holding one in mint and used condition, the value can shoot up to $300 to $800 depending on centering and gum. For a well-centered and used example with full original gum and certification from a recognized grading service like the Philatelic Foundation or PSE, the price can even exceed $1,000 to $3,000 at auction. Incredibly, certain rare plate varieties, re-entries, or stamps with unusual color tones, such as deep blue-green or yellowish-green shades, have been known to sell for over $5,000 when accompanied by expert verification. Collectors also search for specific plating positions, as each position on the original printed plate produced a slightly different look due to the engraving technique. Some positions show doubling or re-entry marks, which are minor engraving flaws that occurred during the plate creation process. These re-entries are highly collectible and can drastically raise a stamp's value. The famous Scott catalog numbers associated with these include Scott number 9 for the 1852 to 1855 version and Scott number 20 for the 1857 re-engraved version with added detail. If you have one of these and it's in good shape, you are potentially sitting on a piece worth several hundred, if not thousands, of dollars. Another major factor in determining value is the margin size. Because these stamps were hand-cut, the size of the white space around the green frame, known as the margin, is very important. Stamps with large, balanced margins on all four sides are significantly more valuable than those cut too close to the design or trimmed into the image. Some stamps were even used in bisects, where they were cut in half and used as half-value postage during times of shortage, and these bisected uses, especially on original envelopes, are highly collectible and command even greater market prices. In 2025, the philatelic market continues to see high demand for early American classics, and the 1-cent green Washington remains one of the most collected and studied stamps in U.S. history. Major auction houses like Robert A. Siegel Auction Galleries, Spink, and Heritage Auctions routinely feature these stamps in their high-profile sales, often accompanied by rich provenance and certificates. It's not uncommon to see top-grade examples of this stamp exceed their estimated value during heated bidding wars. On the other hand, lower-grade or damaged versions are still desirable as fillers for collectors aiming to complete a full classic U.S. set. If you believe you own one of these green 1-cent Washington stamps, your first step should be identification. Carefully examine the stamp under magnification. Look for signs of re-entry in the design, note the exact shade of green, and check for margin balance. Then consult a Scott specialized catalog or seek help from an experienced philatelist. Getting a certificate of authenticity from the Philatelic Foundation, professional stamp experts, or American Philatelic Society can provide assurance of its value and make it more marketable if you decide to sell. Presentation is also important. Place the stamp in a protective mount or transparent sleeve, and make sure to take high-resolution images of both the front and back when listing online or sharing with experts. At Stamps Old World UK, we believe every stamp is more than just ink and paper. It is a reflection of a nation's pride, history, and the human effort to connect across distances. The 1-cent green George Washington stamp is a perfect example, a relic of early American ambition, of artistry, of historical storytelling in miniature form. Whether your stamp is worth $20 or $5,000, the value lies not only in its monetary worth but in its significance as a preserved piece of history. So if you enjoyed this deep dive video and you're excited to learn more about rare stamps from the United States and beyond, don't forget to subscribe to Stamps Old World UK, the 1871 cent Benjamin Franklin stamp. This small piece of paper may look simple at first glance, but behind it lies a fascinating story of American history, postal development, printing technology, and collector demand that continues more than 150 years after it was first issued. In today's video, we will examine the history of the stamp, its design, varieties, rarity, factors that influence value, and most importantly, how much the 1871 cent Franklin stamp can be worth in today's market. The year was 1870, and the United States Post Office Department introduced a completely new series of postage stamps. These stamps are known among collectors as the bank note issues because they were printed by the National Bank Note Company. The 1-cent denomination featured Benjamin Franklin, one of America's founding fathers, scientist, inventor, diplomat, and the first Postmaster General of the United States. Franklin's contribution to the development of the American postal system made him a natural choice for appearing on postage stamps. The 1871 cent Franklin stamp was printed in a deep blue color and displayed a detailed portrait of Benjamin Franklin facing left. The engraving work was exceptional for its time and demonstrated the high standards of 19th-century stamp production. The stamp was primarily used for mailing newspapers, printed matter, circulars, and other low-cost postal services. Because of its low denomination, millions of examples were printed and used throughout the country. At first glance, many people assume that a stamp with such a large printing quantity cannot be valuable. However, philately is never that simple. While common examples are indeed affordable, certain varieties, conditions, cancellations, and rare types can command impressive prices in today's market. One of the most important aspects of collecting the 1871 cent Franklin stamp is identifying its different varieties. During its production, several printing plates and paper types were used. Specialists study details such as grill patterns, perforations, shades, paper thickness, and plate characteristics. Some varieties are considerably scarcer than others. This is where collecting becomes both exciting and challenging. The most common variety is generally found with a cancellation mark. Since these stamps were heavily used for everyday postal purposes, most surviving examples today are used copies. A typical used example with average centering and ordinary cancellation can often sell for anywhere between $10 and $50 depending on condition. Better centered examples may bring higher prices. Condition is one of the most important factors affecting value. In stamp collecting, centering refers to how evenly the design is positioned within the perforated margins. A well-centered stamp is significantly more desirable than one with the design touching or cutting into the perforations. Two stamps that appear identical at first glance may have dramatically different market values simply because one is better centered. Collectors also pay close attention to the quality of the perforations. Missing teeth, tears, creases, fins, stains, and repairs can greatly reduce value. On the other hand, a stamp with fresh color, intact perforations, and a clean appearance will attract stronger collector interest and higher prices. Unused examples of the 1871 St. Franklin stamp are much scarcer than used copies. Since most stamps were purchased for postal use, relatively few survived unused. An unused example without gum may sell for several $100s depending on quality. Examples retaining original gum can command even higher prices. Well-preserved mint examples are especially sought after by advanced collectors and investors. Among the most fascinating aspects of this issue are the grill varieties. During the late 19th century, the United States experimented with grills, small embossed patterns pressed into the paper to prevent the reuse of stamps. Certain grill types associated with the 1 St. Franklin issue are significantly rarer than standard examples. Correct identification often requires expert examination, but the rewards can be substantial. Some grill varieties have sold for thousands of dollars at auction due to their scarcity and collector demand. Collectors should also be aware of color shades. While most examples appear blue, specialists recognize various shade differences caused by printing conditions and ink mixtures. Certain shades may be more desirable, particularly when they are clearly identifiable and certified by recognized philatelic experts. Postal history collectors often seek stamps that remain attached to original envelopes or covers. A 1 St. Franklin stamp on a complete cover with an interesting postmark, historical destination, or unusual postal usage may be worth considerably more than a single detached stamp. The story behind the cover can sometimes be more valuable than the stamp itself. Now let us discuss current market values in greater detail. In today's collecting market, a heavily used example in average condition may be worth between $10 and $30. A cleaner used example with attractive centering can often sell for $50 to $150. Fine examples with excellent appearance may reach several $100s. Unused examples can range from several $100s to well over $1,000 depending on condition and gum status. Rare varieties, premium grade examples, or certified specimens may achieve prices ranging from several $1,000s to tens of thousands of dollars. At major philatelic auctions, exceptional examples have achieved remarkable results. Collectors compete aggressively for stamps that combine rarity, outstanding condition, and certification. The difference between an average example and a top-quality example can be enormous. This is why professional grading and expert certificates play an important role in the high-end stamp market. For anyone who discovers an old 1 St. Franklin stamp in an inherited collection, it is important not to make assumptions about value based solely on age. Many old stamps are common, while others may be rare. Careful identification is essential. Details such as grills, paper type, centering, cancellation, and condition must all be evaluated before determining an accurate market value. If you own one of these stamps, consider using a magnifying glass and comparing it with specialized stamp catalogs. Expertization services can also help determine authenticity and identify valuable varieties. A small detail overlooked by a beginner could potentially represent a significant difference in value. The enduring popularity of Benjamin Franklin also contributes to the stamp's appeal. Franklin remains one of the most respected figures in American history, and collectors around the world recognize his importance. As a result, stamps bearing his portrait continue to attract strong interest from both beginners and advanced philatelists. More than 150 years after its release, The 1871 Franklin stamp remains an important symbol of American postal history. It connects collectors with a period of rapid national growth, expanding communication networks, and the artistry of classic engraved stamp production. Whether worth a few dollars or several thousand, every surviving example carries a story from the 19th century into the modern world. Next up, the United States 1902 1-cent Benjamin Franklin stamp printed in blue-green color. This classic American stamp is highly collectible and remains a favorite among stamp collectors worldwide. In this video, we will uncover its fascinating history, design, printing details, varieties, rarity, and most importantly, its market value in today's stamp collecting market. The United States 1-cent Benjamin Franklin stamp was issued as part of the famous 1902 definitive series. This series replaced earlier postage designs and introduced fresh portraits of important American historical figures. For the 1-cent denomination, the United States Post Office selected Benjamin Franklin, one of America's founding fathers and the nation's first Postmaster General. Franklin's role in establishing and improving postal services across America made him one of the most appropriate individuals to appear on U.S. postage stamps. The stamp was printed in an attractive blue-green shade, a color that gives the issue a distinctive appearance and helps collectors easily recognize it. The engraved portrait of Benjamin Franklin is surrounded by an elegant frame featuring detailed ornamental work. The quality of engraving reflects the exceptional craftsmanship of the Bureau of Engraving and Printing during the early 20th century. Millions of these stamps were produced because the 1-cent denomination was heavily used for postcards, printed matter, newspapers, and other postal services. As a result, many examples survive today. However, not all surviving examples are equal. The value of a stamp depends on numerous factors including condition, centering, cancellation, gum, rarity, and whether it belongs to a special variety. The most commonly encountered examples are used stamps with postmarks. These stamps were applied to mail and subsequently cancelled by postal clerks. A typical used example with average condition usually sells for between $1 and $10. Stamps with clear impressions, attractive centering, and light cancellations may sell for higher amounts. Condition plays an extremely important role in determining value. Collectors prefer stamps with bright original color, sharp perforations, and no tears, creases, stains, or repairs. A stamp with poor centering may only be worth a few dollars, while a perfectly centered example can be worth many times more. This difference often surprises beginners entering the hobby. And used examples are generally more valuable than used copies. Mint stamps that still retain their original gum are especially sought after by collectors. Depending on quality and centering, mint examples may range from $30 to several $100s. Premium quality examples certified by professional grading services can achieve even stronger prices. One fascinating aspect of the 1902 1-cent Franklin stamp is the existence of various printing shades. While collectors often refer to the color as blue-green, specialists recognize slight differences caused by printing batches and ink mixtures. Some shade varieties attract additional collector interest, particularly when accompanied by expert certification. Collectors also search for stamps with unusual postal history. A 1-cent Franklin stamp on an original postcard, cover, or historic envelope may be worth significantly more than a detached stamp. Postal history collectors appreciate items that tell a story about communication during the early 1900s. Covers showing rare destinations, unusual routes, military mail, or special postmarks can command premium prices. Another important factor is grading. Professional grading services evaluate centering, freshness, perforations, and overall appearance. High-grade examples can be worth many times more than ordinary specimens. A stamp that might normally sell for only a few dollars could be worth hundreds if it receives an exceptionally high grade. In today's market, most average used examples of the 1902 1-cent Benjamin Franklin blue-green stamp typically sell for between $1 and $10. Better used examples with strong centering and attractive appearance often sell for $10 to $50. Mint examples commonly range from $30 to $300 depending on condition and gum quality. Exceptional certified examples in superb condition may bring several $100s or even exceed $1,000 when offered at major philatelic auctions. For collectors who inherit old stamp albums, finding a 1902 1-cent Franklin stamp is quite common. However, determining the exact value requires careful examination. Factors such as centering, gum condition, perforations, color, and cancellation quality all influence market value. Never assume that every old stamp is highly valuable simply because of its age. At the same time, never dismiss an old stamp without proper evaluation because small details can significantly affect its worth. More than 120 years after its release, the 1902 1-cent Benjamin Franklin stamp remains an important part of American philatelic history. It represents an era when letter writing and postcards were essential forms of communication. The stamp continues to attract collectors because of its beautiful engraving, historical significance, and affordable entry point into classic United States stamp collecting. Whether your example is worth a few dollars or several $100s, every surviving 1902 1-cent Franklin stamp carries a piece of American postal history. It connects us to a time when handwritten correspondence traveled across cities, states, and continents powered by one small stamp featuring one of America's greatest historical figures. Next up, the Washington Bicentennial 1-cent stamp of 1932. This beautiful green stamp was released to celebrate the 200th anniversary of the birth of George Washington, the first president of the United States and one of the most important figures in American history. In this video, we will discover the history of the stamp, its design, printing details, collecting varieties, rarity, and its market value in today's stamp market. The year 1932 marked an important milestone in American history. It was exactly 200 years since George Washington was born on February 22, 1732. To honor this occasion, the United States Post Office Department issued a special series of commemorative stamps featuring Washington at different stages of his life. The 1-cent denomination became one of the most widely used stamps in the series because it was intended for everyday postal needs. The stamp features a portrait of George Washington based on historical artwork. Printed in a rich green color, it carries the inscription, Washington Bicentennial, along with the dates 1732 and 1932. The design is both elegant and historically significant, making it a favorite among collectors of United States stamps. Unlike many rare 19th-century stamps, the 1932 Washington Bicentennial 1-cent stamp was produced in very large quantities. Millions of copies were printed and sold throughout the United States. Because of this large production, the stamp remains relatively affordable for most collectors today. However, condition remains extremely important when determining value. Most collectors encounter this stamp in used condition with postal cancellations. Common used examples generally sell for between 25 cents and $3 depending on condition and appearance. Stamps with heavy cancellations, damaged perforations, tears, stains, or creases usually have little premium value. And used examples are more desirable. A mint stamp with original gum and bright color may typically sell for between $2 and $15. Well-centered examples in excellent condition can command higher prices, especially when certified by professional grading services. One of the most important factors affecting value is centering. In stamp collecting, centering refers to how evenly the design is positioned within the perforated margins. A perfectly centered stamp is much scarcer than an average example. Collectors often pay substantial premiums for stamps with exceptional centering and superior eye appeal. Plate blocks and complete sheets are also popular among collectors. A plate block consists of several connected stamps showing the plate number in the margin. These items often sell for higher prices than individual stamps because they provide additional information about the printing process and are scarcer in high-quality condition. Another interesting area of collecting involves first-day covers. These are envelopes bearing the stamp and canceled on the first day of issue. Washington Bicentennial first-day covers remain popular among postal history enthusiasts and can range from a few dollars to considerably more depending on rarity, condition, and cachet design. In today's stamp market, a typical used Washington Bicentennial 1-cent stamp is usually worth between 25 cents and $3. Mint examples often range from $2 to $15. Superb graded examples may sell for $50, $100, or even several $100s when they receive exceptionally high grades from professional certification services. Although it is not considered a rare stamp, its historical importance makes it highly collectible. The stamp represents the celebration of one of America's greatest national heroes and commemorates a major historical anniversary. For many collectors, its significance extends beyond monetary value. If you find a Washington 1732 to 1932 1-cent stamp in an old collection, examine it carefully. Look at the centering, perforations, gum condition, color freshness, and overall appearance. These details can make a substantial difference in value. While most examples are common, premium quality specimens remain highly sought after by advanced collectors. More than 90 years after its release, the 1932 Washington Bicentennial 1-cent stamp continues to be collected and appreciated around the world. Its attractive design, historical significance, and affordable price make it an excellent addition to any stamp collection. Next up, the United States 1-cent George Washington Green Imperfect Stamp. At first glance, this small green stamp may appear ordinary, but it belongs to one of the most collected and studied stamp series in United States postal history. In this video, we will explore its history, design, printing characteristics, rarity, collector interest, and current market value. The stamp features a portrait of George Washington, the first president of the United States and one of the most recognizable figures ever depicted on American postage stamps. Washington's image appeared on countless U.S. stamps throughout the late 19th and early 20th centuries, but the imperfect issues hold a special place in philately because they represent an important period of experimentation and development in stamp production. One of the first things collectors notice about this stamp is that it is imperfect. Unlike most stamps that have perforated edges allowing them to be separated easily from a sheet, imperfect stamps were printed without perforations. Postal clerks and customers had to cut or separate them manually. This distinctive feature makes them immediately recognizable and highly interesting to collectors. The green color of the stamp was chosen for the 1-cent denomination, following a long tradition in United States stamp production. The rich green shade, combined with the finely engraved portrait of George Washington, creates a simple yet elegant design that remains attractive more than a century after it was first issued. During the early 20th century, the United States Post Office experimented with both perforated and imperfect stamps. Many imperfect stamps were issued specifically because vending machine and affixing machine companies needed stamps in special formats. As a result, some imperfect issues were produced in smaller quantities than their perforated counterparts, making them more desirable among collectors today. The stamp shown here appears to be an unused example with strong color and clear margins. For collectors, margins are extremely important. Because imperfect stamps were cut from larger sheets, the size and balance of the margins can significantly influence value. Examples with wide, even margins on all four sides are generally worth more than copies with narrow or uneven margins. Condition is one of the most important factors when determining value. Collectors look for fresh color, clean paper, sharp impressions, and the absence of tears, creases, thins, stains, or repairs. Even minor flaws can reduce value, while exceptional examples can command substantial premiums. Another factor affecting value is whether the stamp retains its original gum. Unused stamps with original gum are generally more desirable than those without gum. Professional grading services often certify high-quality examples, and a superior grade can dramatically increase market value. The Washington Franklin series is one of the most complex and studied areas of United States philately. Specialists examine watermarks, paper types, printing methods, shades, and other technical details to identify specific catalog numbers. Two stamps that appear nearly identical to the casual observer may have very different values depending on these characteristics. In today's stamp market, common imperfect 1-cent Washington stamps in average condition often sell for between $5 and $25. Better examples with attractive margins and strong eye appeal may bring between $25 and $75. Premium quality examples with excellent centering, original gum, and professional certification can sell for $100, $200, or even more depending on the exact variety and condition. Collectors around the world continue to seek these stamps because they represent a fascinating chapter in American postal history. They connect us to an era when the United States postal system was expanding rapidly and experimenting with new methods of stamp production and distribution. Although this stamp may seem small, it carries a remarkable story. It reflects the life and legacy of George Washington, the evolution of United States stamp printing, and the enduring appeal of classic philately. More than 100 years after its issue, collectors still appreciate its beauty, history, and significance. Whether your example is worth a few dollars or several $100s, it remains an important piece of American postal heritage. Careful examination by a specialist can help determine the exact catalog number and uncover details that may affect its value. Thank you for watching Stamps Old World UK. If you enjoyed learning about the United States 1-cent George Washington Green Imperfect stamp and its market value today, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss another journey into the fascinating world of stamps. Leave a comment below if you own this classic Washington stamp or if there is another stamp you would like featured in a future video. Until next time, Happy collecting and keep exploring the treasures of philately.